Hello and welcome to Telefrag. We've missed you. In this episode, we flash back to E3 2010 to share our thoughts on the PlayStation Move and Kinect for Xbox 360. We check out the beta for World of Warcraft Cataclysm, and we start a new feature on Telefrag where we talk to Kiwis involved in the competitive gaming scene. On an unrelated note, you should drink Primo. Primo. Speaking of product placement, our friends at Mighty Ape have given us a $100 voucher to give away. Just count how many times the image of a Primo bottle appears throughout the show and enter on the website. Oh look, there's one now.
For gamers, this is the best week of the year. You can just feel the buzz in the air. And as usual, that buzz begins with technology.
For the last few years, Nintendo's been getting fat off the motion controller pie that they discovered while looking for ways to recycle unsold GameCubes. Craving some of that sweet pie, both Microsoft and Sony used last year's E3 Expo to announce their foray into motion controller land. After a year of what-ifs and maybe they won't suck, we were able to get a hands-on with PlayStation Move and a hands-free with Kinect for Xbox 360 at this year's E3. Now, to the untrained eye, Move appears to be pretty much a riced-up version of the Wii controller, which is correct in a lot of ways, minus the casual racism. The two key components to Move are the motion controller, which has inertial sensors, an accelerometer, and something called a magnetometer, as well as a sweet glowing orb which is detected by the second key component, the PlayStation Eye camera. You're able to use two controllers in tandem for any games that may require dual wielding. There's also the Move navigation controller, which is more of an ergonomic replacement for the DualShock controller for when an analog stick is required.
Look, it's really responsive. I'm just a bit unco.
All this ties together to create an experience that's very similar to what everyone has already experienced with the Wii, only now accuracy and lag-free response time comes as standard. All this means absolutely nothing without decent core games to back the tech up. So-called casual-friendly sports titles may be amongst the highest selling titles in both this generation and of all time, but for those of us who like to sit on the couch and shoot at stereotypes, Sony have been keen to exploit this new tech with its first and second party developers. Shooters like Killzone 3 and the new SOCOM will both make use of Move as an alternative to the standard controller. James, who was reading these words out loud, hello, had the opportunity to play SOCOM with the motion controller at E3 last month. His initial reaction was one of satisfaction.
It felt very smooth, having the buttons and stuff there for control, all in easy reach of your thumb, and wow, that was really cool. I think the Move might be the best motion controller I've used so far.
The incredible detection offered by PlayStation Move allows for high levels of accuracy, which is massively important to those of us who prefer our sedentary playstyles. Later, we'll share our thoughts and experiences with Kinect for Xbox 360.
I gotta have a go on this one now.
After the break, we speak to Pablo D about his thoughts on competitive gaming in New Zealand. It's brought to you by Primo. Tasty, tasty Primo.
Now take a moment and chill with a Primo.
Gamer tag's Pablo D. I'm a bit of a cross-platform. I like a lot of PC and Xbox games. At the moment, playing mainly Battlefield Bad Company 2. Competing in that this weekend.
So you're in the Bad Company 2 tournament at Xland?
Yep. We've team's been doing pretty well. I think we're through to the semis, which is coming up later today, so that's all good. And also played in the Halo 3 tourney on Xbox, got absolutely donned, but had some shits and some giggles, so that's okay.
What are your thoughts on pro gaming in New Zealand?
I definitely think it's on the up and up, which is good. One sad facet of New Zealand gaming, I think, is we have to piggyback off the Australian kind of stuff most of the time, but it's also good because if we didn't have such a large neighbour or large community of gamers right next door, we wouldn't have as many people to practice against, and we wouldn't be able to compete on a sort of international level when we send people overseas to represent New Zealand and stuff, so that's good as well.
Do you think that with people like Bobby Kotick and Activision saying they want to release games like Call of Duty every year, do you think that's fragmenting the pro gaming tournament, community? Because it takes time for a game to build up.
Yeah, totally. The pro gaming community will get shanked by that sort of stuff, but they're just out there to make money, and that's what they've got to do it. So,
I think the other thing that you touched on before is the size of the community in New Zealand. Do you think that's with the number of games going up? Do you think there are more people playing as well? Yeah,
totally. And I think it's a matter of getting people to come out of the woodwork. Like there's heaps and heaps and heaps of gamers who they don't go online to play. They just play at their mate's house around. But yeah, every year you see more and more fresh blood on the scene. So yeah, we're definitely growing the rosters in every game.
Cool. How do you like to chill?
Well, usually it's, for most of the year, I guess video games would be my chill out time, but it's been kind of business for the last 3 months and training for X-Lanes, so I guess chill time would be just hanging out with the wife and kids actually.
Primo. Take a moment and chill.
And next week, we speak to Faxi.
If you could create your own kind of flavoured milk, what would it be?
Pass.
Now comes the part of the show where we talk about Microsoft's Kinect for Xbox 360. When it was announced in 2009, we, along with many others, had our doubts about the RGB video camera with its depth sensor and multi-array microphone. Could a device that relies so heavily on software technology and the processing power of the 360 really retain the high fidelity of control that we've all come to expect? From our experiences at E3, the answer is kind of. In the games where a lot of slow movement was required, Kinect appeared to work as intended. With anything that required quick reflexes, however, we were met with an obvious lag, which had to be compensated for. As nerds, the experience was interesting, but ultimately disappointing. 2-player maximums and the current requirement that you need to be standing to play any of the games will mean that even the Wii, by all accounts a much less sophisticated piece of hardware, has a larger variety of entertainment possibilities for gamers. But, as Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan director Nicholas Myers said, art thrives on restriction. The technical and tactile limitations of the Kinect, combined with the unique interactions offered by voice and spatial recognition, should have triggered a wave of creativity in designers everywhere.
If you leave with anything today, then leave with this thought. What designers and what this industry does with Natal will change the landscape of games that we play.
But instead, we as gamers, reeking of hope, are to be greeted with 15 launch titles that nobody asked for. Why should we invest in technology that game developers are currently unwilling to take any risks on? So, where do our interests lie? At this point in time, the PlayStation Move has the most appealing games lined up. But a lot of the ones that we're interested in are playable without the Move. Kinect has the advantage of being so different that there's a lot of potential to revolutionise how we play games, but as it stands, none of the announced titles hold any interest for us.
Namaste to you too.
And finally on the show, we take a gander at the beta for World of Warcraft's next expansion, Cataclysm. The lumbering beast that is WoW marches forward in what is the 6th year of its massively multiplayer online role-playing life. The upcoming expansion, expected to be released late this year, is planned as a bit of a reboot for players, updating old content in a manner that extends the storyline for veterans and newbies alike. As well as a lot of incremental improvements to things like quest tracking and how statistics work for the player, major improvements to plot progression are what will appeal to fans of Blizzard's storytelling and the lore of the Warcraft universe. Phasing, which was something that was explored slightly in Wrath of the Lich King, is now a tool that Quest developers have really been running with. The static realm of Azeroth is no more, as the world itself is being ripped apart by the dragon aspect, Deathwing. Other than the more permanent changes to almost all of the main zones, which now allow flying by the way, phasing allows this Cataclysm to be part of your experience. The starting Goblin zones, a new playable faction for the Horde, starts with minor examples of phasing in use. NPCs move around as quests progress in the early stages, but as you move through the storyline, whole towns are wiped out, only for others to be created and wiped out again, creating a real sense of progression with each plot thread, helping to give this MMORPG a rather personal feel. But we do have concerns about it. One of the best aspects of WoW is the ability to party up with your friends to complete quests, even if they were ahead or behind of you in the quest line. If phasing will make working together more difficult, or force players to be far more organised with how they quest, it could be improving one aspect of the game at the cost of another. One other thing before we go, although the graphics engine for WoW is getting on, we're still really impressed with Blizzard's art department and their ability to create some amazing visuals. See you next time! Good night, you princes of Maine, you kings of New England.